Thank you, everyone, for tuning back into the United We Strike Radio Marathon. It's July 13th, 2013. My name is Matt Navarro. I am a host on this show of the New World Order Report. I am one of the core members that have been here a long time. We're trying to get another person on. Gary, our great producer here, is trying to get Karen Tostada on, who we've missed all day today. She has normally been the driving force behind these marathons that we've had for almost 4 years now. She's been a real strong voice in trying to unite the world to remove their support from the New World Order. But she has taken a step back, and rightfully so. And she's put a lot of her heart and a lot of her time and a lot of her effort into this thing we call United We Strike. And so she has been out doing her little thing that makes her happy, and hopefully we can get her on to talk about that. But I just want to remind everybody that, even though Karen pulled out of her participation here today, doesn't mean that we still can't carry that message of uniting the world against the New World Order, because it is in our best interest. Don't buy, don't comply, ask why. We've been, repeating this mantra now for the last 4 years, and August makes our 4th anniversary that we've been doing these marathons, and Karen's taking a break, so we've continued this show without her presence, and I think we've done a good job. The producers have stepped up to the plate, and Detlef, Alan, and Gary have really done yeoman's work in helping to pull this all together. I know what it's like to produce. I know what it's like to work behind the scenes, and it is an effort, and it's a little stressful at times when you have technical challenges like we did with Dinah this morning, Dinah Everett Snyder, where, she kept getting disconnected. So, we are able to continue this without Karen's presence. We miss her, but I am encouraged by the participation of the host we have. So I'd like to thank all of our hosts as well, because we continue this message of unity, of telling the world that, hey, we outnumber these globalists, these control freaks that want to control our lives. We, as a race, can do something about it, and that's why we try to share the information we do with all of you so that you can make better decisions for yourself and your family. Then, as you learn the truth, as Larry was saying earlier, it is your obligation to then go out and tell others what you've learned, because they deserve the respect that you can provide them to give them the information that they might not have access to otherwise. And that's what we try to do here. Gary, have we gotten Karen on with us?
I think so. It looks like she's live. Haven't heard a peep out of her yet, though, and she's not usually one to stay so quiet.
Karen.
Hey, I was soaking up all the nice things you were saying about me. I figured I'd just sit back and wait.
Right now, in the round table, we've got Am Rosen. I've tried to put a nudge into his cohort, Dean, but haven't heard from him yet. We do have Lark in the room. We've got Karen, and we've got Matt Navarro. There were a couple of others that I was attempting to bring in. You may hear a telephone ringing in the background momentarily as I.
Gary,
go ahead.
Yeah, excuse me. Dean is finishing up with the patient. He told me he'd join us as soon as he was done.
Very good. I'll just look for a note for him in the Skype chat and bring him in as soon as he's available. But you may hear some phone dialing in the background as I try one more time to bring in Phil Rustino.
Okay. Hey, Karen, thanks for joining us. Tell us what you've been up to. You've been to these farmers markets as a vendor, right? Tell us what you're doing with your time.
Well, I wanted to have some fun.
38678.
And so I am just working with crystals, with chakra colors, with globes that catch and shine light everywhere, throw rainbows everywhere. 3 to 5 inches. I'm really having a lot of fun, and when people come up, I remind them also of the tale of the Rainbow Warriors, who become the heroes of their own lives and come together to protect the earth. So I'm putting it out there on a more energetic level instead of trying to be so political, because there's just so much malfeasance. It's still hard to it's hard to get around it. And after almost 5 years of banging my head, I thought maybe I'd do something that was a little less political and a little more fun. And so I'm planting seeds that way. And thank you very much, Matt, for stepping up. Thank you, Gary. Thank everybody. I could listen a little bit this morning before I took off. I just got home, and I'm just so proud of all of you. It's a real treat to see that this is continuing.
Well, it's great that it is continuing. It shows that what you started with, your inspiration, your seed of inspiration, has carried forward. So you can, pat yourself on the back, Karen, that your inspiration and the passion I love in your voice has carried through, that other people have heard that. I am also proud of the folks who have been producers and hosts today, still wanting to share that information that they have, knowing that it might help someone. It might help the next person by planting that seed. And it's nice hearing your voice, though. And I like the fact that you're enjoying life and not being so stressed out by fighting the New World Order.
Thank you. I really am. I'm singing more. I've stepped back. I'm not checking my emails every day. I look a little bit, but I'm not being EMF'd quite as frequently.
Well, it's nice to hear you smiling and the smile in your voice and your laughter, and it's good. We get caught up in these situations trying to fight the New World Order. I've been at it for over 20 years now on the internet. Gary is the same way. We have our other lives, but yet we still try to participate in awakening the people. And of all people that I know of, you have dedicated a lot of your resources, time, energy into this, and it's good to see you be able to take a step back and be able to know that the seed that you planted is starting to blossom, and we like that about you.
Well, thank you. I'm very grateful, because I didn't know. I just knew that I did need to step back for myself and to spend some time with my husband, because again, we live in a 38 by 8 foot rectangle, and I used to just live right here, and the refrigerator's right behind me. The front door with a screen is over here, and it's a small space, especially when I was crazy enough to do the 3-day marathons last year. But it's gratifying to really hear voices from all over. I caught a little bit this morning with JP, the European RoundTable, and it is really gratifying to know that at least, we might not be the biggest station around, but I'll tell you, I think that there's so much heart in this group of individuals, and I'm really, really grateful. Matt and Gary and Alan and Detlef and everyone who participates here. So thank you. And I think now we should get to some of the other people here who can join in as well. So I'm going to step back and let you be the ringleader. I will listen here, and I'm happy, very, very happy. So thank you very much.
Well,
and thanks to everyone who participated over the July 4th weekend. At least we kept some money out.
That's right. I was one of those people. Thanks, Karen, for hanging out. Okay, so let's open this up to everyone on the panel here who has joined us. I wanted to pick the topic because we just celebrated last weekend, our 4th of July. In America, we celebrate this day, the 4th of July, as a holiday. It is marked with fireworks and barbecues and family get-togethers and summer activities. And what we think we celebrate is our Declaration of Independence from the tyrannical government of Britain, with its overbearing laws and unlawful, immoral dictator, okay? Fast forward to July 4th, 2013, and we have a United States where Edward Snowden says the NSA is listening to all your phone calls, sucking up all your emails. They're spying on you like crazy. IRS is bugging all the politically active people just to shut them up. We've got this excessive Office of Homeland Gestapo checking my BVDs when I want to fly, get on a plane. They're looking for Al Qaeda in my underwear. We got all this going on, and we think we celebrate freedom. Well, what is freedom? I'm asking our panel here. What is freedom? To me, freedom is what the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights tries to identify, is that there is no person above each other in this society. Each of us are sovereign. Whereas prior to this, the monarch was sovereign, or the government or the church was sovereign, and they had control over all subjects below that. Well, the Bill of Rights tries to identify everyone as a sovereign and protects the people with the government as the protector of those rights. To me, that's what freedom's supposed to be, but we don't have that in our country anymore. We're seeing less of that worldwide, and that's why we have shows like UnitedWeStrike.com to awaken people to the fact that that is not the case anymore, and that we need to do something about it. To me, freedom is part of that is UnitedWeStrike.com. Anyone else have an idea of what freedom is?
I've got an image of freedom I'd like to put in people's minds, and I want to try to build this image so people can hold on to it. But to me, freedom was that 12-year-old boy I used to be who'd go out and instead of putting one bottle rocket in the Pepsi bottle, he put 15 all at the same time and scorched his fingers with his daddy's cigarette trying to get them all lit, and did not sue the firework manufacturer for his scorched fingers. That is freedom, taking responsibility for your own stupidity, not trying to put it off on somebody else, but you know what? Having the freedom to burn your fingers, if that's really what you want to do.
But I bet that was fun, watching all those skyrockets go.
Oh, man, it was worth every one of my scorched fingers.
Anyone else? Am, your idea of
freedom. Freedom, all right, responsibility, our ability to respond. What parts of ourselves can we respond with, and how able are we to do that? The responsibility breeds privilege. That's access to the space and whatever energies may be available to us. My thing is, I don't obey. If you can make more sense than I do, I'll be happy to learn and reconsider. It should be a question of who makes sense, but as I've been stating, most people, regardless of what they think, don't really feel free. They feel enslaved by feelings that limit and threaten them. Other people come along. Look at the advertising industry. They hire bright behavioral psychologists, pay them big salaries with big expense accounts to do what? To figure ways to get you to buy products you basically don't need or want. Quite often they use sex to sell you everything but satisfying sex, because if you were sexually satisfied, you probably wouldn't want most of what they're doing. But they can't play off of these insecurities unless they're there to begin with. Now, the intellect comes along and says, hey, look at what's possible, what's feasible, and that's great. But freedom, accepting your ability to respond, means being quite honest within yourself, quite honest within each other. Of course, we're not going to be honest with each other unless we can be honest within ourselves. So it's free. For me, the basis of freedom is freeing up the nervous system. In other words, having full access to your senses, your feelings, your thoughts, mixing and matching them, using them or not using them, then you're free to interact. You don't like it, you have the means to change. But if you're obscured inside, you feel threatened, you feel uncomfortable, it's slurring the quality of your metabolic functions, then you're going to try and override it. And that's what you have with a lot of people that have obtained power. They feel insecure, and the only way they know to preserve their position is to get you down in the hole that they're in and keep you under it. So for me, freedom, the basis of it is individually healing each person so that their interactions are not based on fear or the denial of fear.
That is rather profound. I like that. That is rather profound because we were talking about earlier that fear is used as a control mechanisms by governments, by monarchs, by dictators, and churches to control people's lives. And I like your idea that it's our ability to understand honesty is to be able to think about that is freedom. Because with the mind control that we're being fed through our media, our newspapers, magazines, TV, radio, we're being fed this propaganda and we're being manipulated into this fear, which then affects our psyche, affects our spirituality, and we cannot see the truth, and then we are not free.
No, and we're very susceptible to manipulation. But then where does the fear come from? Why does it grab you? We think so much about these things, but gut-grabbing emotions, these are primitive responses. But all of a sudden, in the past couple hundred years, initiated as an intellectual construct and attemptively put into social production, it's the idea that you can move about and call your own shots. But we're coming from a place of a lot of drag lines where people were tribal, they were oriented to responding to authority. They have to find the true level of authority within themselves, and that is always and only based on understanding, not just intellectually conceiving, but having access, seeing what's available to you, how it's constructed, its interactive range of motion, how you can access it to your heart's content or leave it alone. Then you're ready to play. You can't be trapped, you can't be cheated, you can't be pushed around. But if anything you deny is in there, it works on you from the subconscious, and somebody who's astute can come along and play. They don't know how to cure it, they don't know how to heal it, but they do know how to take advantage of it. And that's part of what humanity is struggling with right now, these old patterns. The guy with the bigger muscle and the sharper axe coming right out of the Stone Age. It's still there. But our technological advances make the discrepancy between what we can conceive and bring into function and where we're stuck operating from. It's driving people nuts. It's scaring the hell out of, or into them, I should say.
Well, it is scary. When the government has the lawful right to hover above my house at 48,000 feet with the Predator drone and drop a Hellfire missile on it within their legal beliefs, it means that no one can think outside of the box when they have that much control. They want to keep you inside the box. I don't know who it was that said earlier. I think maybe it was Larry Pinkney that mentioned something about needing to think outside the box, needing to think outside the confines of what society wants to hold you in, so that you can hear the messages like we share on UnitedWeStrike.com, so that you can awaken and then ingest that information and share that with others. That's freedom, the ability to be able to think independently. Is that what you're saying, Am?
Well, yes, but absolutely. But the idea of thinking independently is not the actuality of it. As long as our nervous systems are stuck with this primitive inheritance that we have, we can think it, but it actually creates a discrepancy, a war zone inside of us. The intellect, it's very important. People don't understand how their own consciousness processes. The intellect works through duality. There is nothing that we can conceive of, goodness, freedom, intimacy, without automatically and simultaneously implying its opposite possibility. Gee, I could be free, but suppose I'm not. That comes up as slavery. However you look at it, this is the way the intellect works. These are mechanisms of consciousness. When you understand them and you gain control of them, you use them. But for most of us, the intellect is directed by our feelings. We can abstract ourselves and say, this is how it should be. I can see the logic of this. I can see it would be more productive, more satisfying, more fulfilling. But very seldom do people feel that way because they're stuck with all these primitive gut-grabbing patterns of response. So for me, while we're looking at what's feasible, what's possible, and moving towards it, we're either going where we want to go, that's always towards a more expansive, inclusive, and integrated state of awareness, whatever the consideration, or we're getting rid of what's ever in the way. So you show me something that makes me uncomfortable, not too much does, I'm like a dog with a bone. Because whatever it is, even if I have to put it down, it's a misunderstanding. I can see where it's uncomfortable, get it out of the way, but if it raises a thunderstorm of emotions in me, then it's showing me someplace that's unresolved. I want people to be so secure, so clear, that they can't be conned, they can't be manipulated. So they demand the kind of things that will really satisfy, so people that want to produce those things can do it. And the people that are just playing off of everybody's inadequacies and weaknesses fall by the wayside. But that involves more than just the thought of it. It involves actually freeing up the nervous system and giving people that access and control, which right now they don't have.
You know, Lark in Texas talks about language and how it controls us. Lark, can you expand on freedom from your point of view, listening to what Anna just said about how language can be used to manipulate one's consciousness, therefore spirituality, therefore emotion, and how we react to the world?
Well, sure. Of course, my initial thoughts were directed towards that word independence, given your opening remarks about the recent July 4th weekend. And I was reminded that in 1976, President Jimmy Carter adopted and said publicly that he was going to celebrate a Declaration of Interdependence. Now, this happened during our bicentennial, 1976. He declared a Declaration of Interdependence. And so, as a young man, I recalled at the time that this was certainly a watershed event, because I had been suspicious that we were not independent as a people and as a nation. And when I think of freedom, I always think first of free will. And I like to tell people that if they're unsure about what is free will, to simply go on YouTube and listen to several speakers speak to the issue of free will. What is free will? Do I have it or do I not have it? Is it dependent upon something? Was I endowed with this upon my birth? Is this an inheritance that I must guard? All kinds of things. A very interesting talk is given by a rabbi. And if you do a word search, understanding free will, that is a very good discussion. I have had to listen to that at least 4 or 5 times to digest it all. Because, of course, I'm not Jewish, nor am I Christian. But that was only the beginning of my efforts to define this thing called freedom. Then, of course, it went to liberty. Freedom always goes to free will. Liberty to locomotion. Pretty simple. And of course, I've looked at these words etymologically throughout time, throughout history. And I look to things like law. What are the things that have brought us into bondage? You speak elegantly to releasing oneself from fear. Oftentimes this is born from a false perception of scarcity. We want to live in a world of abundance. We don't want to live with fear. I'm reminded of the words of Rabbi Hillel. What is hateful to thee, do not unto thy fellow man. This is the whole of the law. The rest is but commentary. And I think how that is so much akin to the golden rule.
I agree with you. It's the goal. Treat others with respect. Treat others with the regard that they deserve as humans, and that exchange of recognizing that they are independent beings is an expression of freedom. Understanding that they are their own persons. Gary, you're a very articulate person. You've been an activist for a long time. You know, I'm sure you have some pent-up thoughts about what freedom is. Let's hear those.
Well, I'll tell you, my pent-up thoughts right now is that we're coming up to the top of the hour, and maybe the panel would like to take a brief 4-minute break, time to refresh your drinks and maybe pull some snacks together. What do you think? Shall we just continue on, or do you want to take a quick break?
Well, if the panel wants to take a break, that's fine. But when we come back, let's hear your thoughts, Gary.
Happy to. I'm going to go ahead and take us out with a little bit of music, give everybody a chance to get up, stretch their legs, and we'll be back in just about 3 minutes to continue our roundtable discussion. All right, folks, and we're back for the second part of our evening roundtable on the United We Strike Radio Marathon. My name is Gary Hendershot, and I'm the producer of this segment of the show. I'm sitting here in my underground bunker just 12 miles south of Washington, D.C., wondering if the fellows in a black Suburban parked out in front of my car liked the donuts with sprinkles that I took them. And, you know, I've been asked, you know,
a tab of X-Lax soaked in LSD might be more effective.
Well, you know, that might actually be the attitude adjustment that some of those boys need. But, you know, I have been an activist for a long time. You know, it started for me back in the late 1960s with a rather unpopular incursion at the time into Southeast Asia that just did not seem right to me. That, you know, I had friends I grew up with who were a little darker skin color than me, who told me these horrible stories about how, you know, their parents had to ride on the back of the bus and all this other nonsense. And I scratched my head and said, well, that ain't right. And, you know, there were just so many things during that period of time that just didn't sit right with me, that I felt I had kind of a personal responsibility to do the best I could to try to bring about some change. And, you know, the terrible thing is, and I've got to kind of hold my generation responsible for this, is that, you know, when the war was over, when that darn war in Vietnam was finally over, Nixon was cashiered in disgrace, and the black man could ride anywhere on the damn bus that he wanted to, we honestly thought we had won. You know, we thought the war was over. We had won. We could get on with our lives. You know, we could take a wife. We could have children. You know, we could have a normal life, kind of something sort of kind of like what our parents had. You know, we figured we were due. We figured we'd fought the good fight. We won. Now it was time to move forward with our lives and try to make something of ourselves. Because, you know, to be honest with you, you can only be in a wartime mentality for so long, and that's what it was like. It was like fighting a war. We fought the war on the streets of Washington, D.C., on the streets of Chicago, on the streets of Selma, Alabama. And, you know, it was indeed a war, and don't think there weren't casualties. There were. So we thought we had won. We moved on with our lives. We took wives. We had children. We took jobs. We started trying to build careers. We bought a home. We took money on credit to buy a new car. You know, we thought we were now entitled to have a little piece of what everybody represented to us as being the American dream. And wasn't it a shock when, you know, 20 years later, you looked around and you realized that, you know, the war you thought you had won was just a battle. it was just one battle. The enemy had regrouped, and the same enemy whose ass we thought we had kicked was now chewing on ours again. So yeah, it's time to get on my love beads, grow back my ponytail, and darn, I sure wish I still had that Harley I had back in the early 70s, but times have changed, but the battle is still the same.
We were duped, Gary.
Yeah, we were.
Well, you're right. It's a battle, and it's not just a single incident that we need to overcome. It is a continual effort. And, I am so humbled by the fact that I'm surrounded by people like yourself, Gary, and Karen, and Am, Lark. We, in the face of adversity, we know that the government is listening and singling out people who have dissenting views about what they should do within the context of controlling our lives. We disagree with their efforts to manipulate, control, and confine us. And, that's where we think we celebrate freedom. Karen, if you're still with us, you're always so eloquent about defining what you believe. What do you believe is freedom from your perspective? I guess we lost Karen.
She may have stepped away.
Well,
No.
There she is.
Karen.
Good.
She's putting on her headset. To me, and I was just looking here quickly at freedom, and a couple of the definitions are the condition of being free of restraints, liberty of the person from slavery, detention, or oppression, political independence. And you know what? When I think of freedom, though, to me it means that I am the sole arbiter of what I do, what I choose to do, where I choose to go. As long as I am not doing any harm, I don't owe loyalty to another authority who claims to have power over me. I do not have to be subservient to litigation or this legal economic conquest, meaning that if I buy property, then it's my property, and I don't have to deal with government bozos coming on for licenses, fees. You have to clear it with this. Now, if I'm doing something that is harming another downstream, if I'm polluting a stream, I should be held accountable. But true freedom, to me, means that I am totally free to be divinely inspired to do what I am led to do. And I think also I've been very affected by the Ringing Cedar series. And there, we all look for, okay, what does God expect from us? To me, the most beautiful definition is found within those volumes, which simply says that what God expects is conjoint creation, bringing joy to all who contemplate it. So the jobs that most of us have, the just over broke jobs, I believe eventually will be a thing of the past, because I think our true job is the joy of being. When we can look around and actually have enough land to where we are totally self-sufficient and joyful, because when we get up, we can walk in our own garden and pick the fruit of our labor and pick different herbs there to help us with medicines, and to be able to think of, okay, what can I create today? Like when I'm creating the chakra jewelry with the prisms and the crystals, and I'm thinking, what can I create that will bring joy not only to me, but to the people who look at it? That, to me, is freedom. And then not having to answer and say, okay, yes, I sold this, and I guess I have to government part of my money here, and I better do this here. No restrictions outside of being born in societies that teach you to be moral, which basically is simple. Do no harm. Do not profit at the expense of another. Do not destroy this world that could be so beautiful. And that's my idea of freedom, Matt.
I agree with you. The ability to exercise one's thoughts, express oneself through whatever means they feel fit is freedom, without intervention and control by an external entity like the government, which they try to do to us at every level. You know, and it's not just the government's program. You see it in these. There's this line of commercials on TV that I see for Citibank, and it's this mind game that they play on people. It's the blue sapphire card for Citibank, and they'll have pretty music in the background with singers, you know, like it sounds like black singers from Motown days. Freedom, freedom, and they show this credit card buying you these really cool things, and they put freedom on the credit card itself. The mind game is this, that, you know, you take, I'm sharing something. Anyway, you take the debt that you gain from this credit card, and say they give you an introductory rate of, say, 12% to pay it off. Let's say you use this to take your daughter to the ER room because she, you know, fell off the swing set and broke her leg. So you had no choice but to use this credit card, and they give you a 12% introductory rate. Let's say you miss a payment, then they jack up the rate to 29%, and you can't pay that off because you have to use the credit card in the first place. So you're strapped for cash, and you make the minimum payment. So you're stuck paying that for over 40 years and still can't pay it off because the interest rate is so high. That is not freedom. That is slavery. And that is part of the mind game that they play on the public. You know, it's that we see it everywhere, but in our daily lives, that is an application of how they're trying to manipulate you from seeing freedom the way we talked about here on United We Strike into this a slavery of financial debt.
Well, and also I think freedom is the freedom to actually keep the fruits of our labor without having the government steal it from us under threat of violence so that they can murder and mutilate and put all the money to the military-industrial complex for weapons of war. You know, I highly resent them taking my money when I make purchases to murder people. When I go to sleep at night, I'm fully aware that there is blood on my hands, unfortunately, because I am stuck in this system that chooses to do that. And that's definitely a lack of freedom.
How about the freedom to say no? How about the freedom not to participate? I mean,
that's my favorite.
Do we really have that freedom?
Yeah, but we don't live in an isolated space. You know, first of all, what people can do to themselves, they'll do to you if you let them. If they can live in any form of avoidance and compensation and denial, they'll do it to you. Nobody's going to do more for you than they've been able to accomplish for themselves, regardless of soaring rhetoric or lip service. You know, coming back to that old expression, render unto Caesar what's Caesar's, render unto God what's God's. What's Caesar's is social survival. You have to have a place to eliminate waste, a place to get water from. Government is a form of structural organization. So is business. It's out of hand because the people running it, that's all they know. They've gotten lost. But this is, okay, so what territory are you operating from? What have we inherited? This is where we need to become smarter and more integrated. But renting under to the integrity of your awareness, kicking out any jams, not tolerating negative emotions, no matter how they seem to be. It's like in martial arts, when if you are really trained and disciplined, you don't go, I'll kill you, man, I'll tear your head off. You go, I'm so sorry, this is the only thing you can understand at the moment. There is a point where you want to be as rich with your feelings and open emotionally as you can be, but if there's a problem, and there's a lot of problems right now, it's not the place for the confused, emotional person. It's the place for the clear, thinking individual. But certainly what people know that give them what they think is an advantage, they're going to try and do to you. The problem is our susceptibility to this kind of childish manipulation. But the other problem is If you don't have that, but you need structural organization in society, what do we replace it with that's going to facilitate our growth and our freedom, our happiness?
That's a tough question. What to replace this current disorganized debacle that we apparently have with? I don't know, but I would trust the people. I would trust the people who think like us to step up to the plate and say, okay, let's try this. Perhaps it is the Bill of Rights that we put in place again. Maybe that might work.
Well, at this state, we've got a lot of, there's a lot of great scriptures, theological, political, social, philosophical, even business, and anybody can quote those. But that doesn't mean that because we're quoting an idea that we're facilitating it. As I said, I'd like to see, my art is that of facilitating, empowering people. When I see people that have developed the discipline, the heart, the openness, the insights such as we're all expressing here, I say, what can I do to make you stronger? Give you more access. I don't know what you'll do with it. If you're a creative individual and you're not inhibited, you're in a state of continuous self-discovery. But I do know what you'll do if you are locked up on some level. You'll wrap around patterns, either in assertion or defense of the patterns that you are with, and most of these are irrational. So I'd like to free up every nervous system in the world, whatever level of competency or discipline or access they've achieved, and so they wouldn't be afraid to interact with each other. Not just expressing ideas, but deeply, because they'd always know how to find their own space, take it, and feel comfortable, pull back, reassess, and then be ready to play some more.
The reality, though, that we face is that we trade away the hours, the days, and weeks of our lives for something which is called money, but which is not money. It is company script. It is a script which is the property of another. It is the property of a cabal of international bankers who finessed through our legislature, through Congress, 100 years ago, the monopoly over the issuance of what they term currency and or credit. It is not money. It has nothing to do with substance. It is something which is easily manipulated, which they have done very well. The first thing that occurred after 1913 was Americans were misled into fighting a war in Europe. And then the second half of that war occurred just a generation later with World War II. We were falsely misled as Americans to fight and die in a foreign war. Now, this was all brought about because of the manipulation of this cabal of international bankers with their monopoly. Over time, what has also occurred is that we have seen growing up around us this company store and this false illusion that any of us own anything that can be obtained from a private company script. They have influenced what is called law today. In fact, the bankers and the members of the bar and the Lawyers Guild have colluded to enslave all of us. The productive capacity of the American people has actually been used to enslave the entire world. What we call the military-industrial complex, we remember Ike's farewell address. He also mentioned the scientific and technological complex. Seldom brought up. It's all one and the same.
I agree with
the universities have been taken over, the colleges, the public school system, the important media pathways, radio, television, the publishing industry. All of this has been usurped and brought to bear against the will of the people. The people have been dumbed down. Methodically. I know when I went to school, I didn't learn a damn thing about law. I didn't learn a damn thing about how to take care of my own body. I learned very little of what was actually important. Not a damn thing. Now, in 1871, following the Communist Revolution, which was the war between the states, the Communists or the Federalists won that war. And with it, following Reconstruction, so-called, we had the Act of 1871. Well, guess what? That very same year, 1871, was the Socialist Internationale. There was a convention held at Allegheny, Pennsylvania, which is now part of Pittsburgh. We became a socialist nation in that year.
Yes, I agree with you. Lark, we've got a few minutes left. We want to get everybody else's closing thoughts. I appreciate that. You know, Charles Irwin and I talked about that last 2 months ago, the Act of 1871, and how that was a turning point in the history of America, again, in the history of humanity, where we took a turn from lawful government to a corporate legal government now that we experience in the United States, and which is now responsible for the tyranny we experience around the planet, where we're bombing people in Pakistan. Let's get some closing thoughts from everyone on this roundtable. I appreciate everyone participating today. Let's start with you, Lark. What's your closing thoughts, real quick?
It's very simple. Socialism equals gangsterism equals slavery. Don't look to the Constitution. Don't look to your legislators. There's no one that can represent you. No one. They're not qualified. We have to take charge of our own lives. We have to define our world on our terms. And I would recommend everybody re-examine something that I term the essential elements of honorable contract. And for that, I say this very clearly. I don't know anybody named we, us, they, them, the state, the government, the community, and I damn sure don't know anybody named we the people. The only people I know that I strive to know are first myself, and then who it is my enemy. And so I choose my trading partners very selectively anymore. My freedom is about how much time I have to enjoy and experience this life on my terms. And I know there are many good people out there. There are many people that are confused. They simply haven't had time to gather up their wits and their thoughts, invest the time to figure it out how they want to live their lives. And I know this is what has happened. This has been generated by design. This saturation of media today in our lives is really an extension of that original technology that man invented called language. And it is insidious, and it can be dangerous. But I say that the best contracts are really those that are accompanied by a handshake, smiles all around, and those sealed with a kiss or consummated upon a bow or a vow. I don't do written contracts, and this is the only way we're going to take our land back, our lives back. We have to practice what I call counter-economics and learn to understand what it is this word autarky, and notice that it has two spellings and it is two different things.
Well, thank you, Lark, for those closing thoughts. I agree with you. We have to take our property rights as well into account for our freedom. Am, let's get your closing thoughts about this weekend, the program today, and the kinds of subject matter we try to bring to the public on United We Strike.
Thank you. It's very gratifying to me to hear people expressing and discussing these things, because so often it's not. You just get slogans or affiliations. I would point out that the quality of whatever you experience, whether you're awake, asleep, dreaming, hallucinating, whether you're unconscious, subconscious, semi-conscious, transcendent, whether you're average, impaired, exceptional, enlightened. The quality, no exceptions, any time or place is determined by the state of mind you're in. And that as long as people are being used by their tools of consciousness, that is the first three levels of perception, senses, feelings, and thoughts, instead of using them, they will feel like the slave of the slave. Those tools are there for you to use. But that requires that you understand who you are and how these tools operate. I don't think language is insidious. I don't think it's wonderful. I think it's a tool. Every thought we have is a symbol. It's not the reality. It represents a possible interaction of form and function in space. You can speculate. You can apply it. Of course, language gets attached to feelings and emotional patterns, and they can be manipulated. But where is our susceptibility point to the manipulation? We need social structures. But the question is, how are they being set up and for what purpose? When people who don't understand get power, they're going to do to you what they know, whatever ensures their basis of operation. So to kick these things around and make people, I don't think most people are even think of it this way. I think this is something new that's coming in. It will open up the doors. We have the techniques, we have the science, we have the technology, but we're misusing it. Quite often because we don't know a more constructive way to facilitate it. And that's what I think we need to bring to the table. I think that's what we're all working on respectively in our own ways. And I'm honored to be a part of contributing to that. And I thank all of you for your contributions.
Well, thank you, Am. Okay, Gary, I'd like to hear your closing thoughts. Karen, and then I'll say a few words. Can we go in that order?
Sure.
Real quick.
And I'll tell you about the simplest, most concise closing thoughts I can give are that this, do not buy, do not comply, ask why thing once a month probably isn't even going to make a ripple in the pond. I do it every day of the month. I don't buy anything from people I don't know. I only do business with people in my neighborhood, people that I know are my neighbors, small business people. I can't remember when the last time I was in a big box store or a Walmart or anything. I can't remember when the last time was. So it's got to become a lifestyle. Vote with your dollar. It's the most important vote you've got. The vote at the ballot box is so easily twisted, contorted, manipulated, that about the only real significant vote any of us have left is with your dollar. Every time you part with one of those Federal Reserve notes that may not be worth as much as a piece of toilet paper, but still, it's the medium of exchange that's commonly used today. Every time you part with one of those things, think about it. Is that a dollar well spent? Maybe spend it another way. And I think that's it for me.
Thank you, Gary. Karen, thanks again for joining us today. We miss you, but we carry on. We carry the torch that you have lit. And, it's nice to have your voice here at the close.
Thank you, Matt. And it's when I first started speaking up anyway, it wasn't so much that I've lit it. I think I just wanted to remind us of what we really know. And Gary could not have put it any better than it isn't about the one day. However, if enough of us ever did it on one day together, collectively, we would have a huge impact that I believe would be totally empowering. When I watch the clips of people who go out and protest, I admire their courage greatly, but I also think that the time has come to realize no one can protect your home like you do. And when we go out and we march and we picket, then what's the real payoff? I mean, it's not broadcast. They downplay it, and you leave your home vulnerable. You leave your family vulnerable, and you subject yourself to being treated like a criminal. Look at Adam Kokesh for a huge crime where no one was harmed, but it's this legal economic conquest. And Am, it's great always to hear your insights. I
Thank
think
you, Karen.
and it's just such a pleasure too. Lark, great. We're using company script. When we get that as well, when we really understand how much we outnumber them, and Lark and Rose's great work, the tiny dot, we do really outnumber them. And when we stop being slaves, when we begin to really recognize that our lives are more important than their lives, we can accomplish great things. We can have administrators in power locally who rotate the jobs. Matt, you were talking about how do you see that happening? Well, what if we really understood that since each one of us has that divine umbilical cord, that we were created out of love, that all there is would not be all there is without each and every one of us. We belong. And who do we want to be? I mean, when you look back throughout history, we were not meant to be born in debt. We were meant to live on the land and be good stewards of the land. And I think that job would really create the joy of being, to turn around and to look at the place where we are, wherever we are, and do what we can to create a paradise in our immediate life, and take more responsibility for creating and growing our own food, or co-creating our own food. And also, I want to leave people with the idea as well of, if you really hear, what better job could there be than co-creation, bringing joy to all who contemplate it? And it's within our power, regardless of what is happening astronomically, what is happening politically. We really don't know how long we have. Let's make our moments, our minutes, our seconds count, because we are free within them. We're free to keep our money out of the system. We're free to support our neighbors. We're free to support our world, our planet, and our children are worth more than just school to work jobs. Our lives are more, and we are more, much more than we've been lied to believe. So thank you, Matt, for taking this over. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Am. Thank you, Lark. Thank you, everyone who's involved in this, because once we finally unite and take advantage of our far greater numbers, we can change our world without all the bloodshed that they're trying to tell us we need. When we don't obey an immoral order, when we take off the uniform and step into our own lives, we can do miracles. And I believe in miracles, and we are the instruments through which they flow. Again, thank you very, very, very much. I am honored and out of words.
Thank you, Karen, for what you've done in the past. I know it's been an exercise of passion for you. It's been very trying for you. It is time consuming, because I've experienced this month, and I appreciate your words. It is humbling for me to experience the interactions I do here on UnitedWeStrike.com, because, I am so impressed by the intellect, the spiritual awareness of the people here, like you say. And it boils down to how we treat each other, and how we treat each other with respect, the golden rule. If we teach each other what we've learned with honesty and a good heart, then maybe our neighbors will understand that, and then they can take that and make better decisions for themselves. Hopefully, they will take that and teach others, and that's what we try to do here at UnitedWeStrike.com. I thank everyone here on this panel and who has participated in the UnitedWeStrike.com radio program since we started, from the Bob Tuskins to the Davids to the Rick Margetts. we've come a long way. Our fourth anniversary is next month. We'll hopefully add back to the lineup Michael Rivero and Charlie McGrath, and hopefully keep the people that we have now as participants, because I learn so much all the time on these shows. It's like going to a rock concert, those all-day rock concerts, those all-day rock festivals, but it's an intellectual exercise the whole time. So, I hope you enjoy this, and I hope you continue to listen to this. I thank everybody for their participation. As we close tonight, we did in the past, and I'd like to try that tonight, close with a little saying that, I find dear to my heart. It's called Death to the New World Order. Would you all like to help me with that?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. We did this last month with varied success, but I think we could do a better job this month. I appreciate all your efforts. I appreciate all of you. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for your input. We really appreciate it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Death
To the new world order. Thanks, guys.
Hey, I took the bass piece. All right, to the roundtable panel, thank you very much for your participation. I'll go ahead and take us out with a quick tune, and y'all can have your adult beverages now. We're done for the evening.
Bye-bye, guys.